DMT, or N-dimethyltryptamine, is a powerful psychedelic that produces some of the most bizarre and consistent experiences in all of psychology. Unlike LSD or psilocybin, which often reflect a user's culture or expectations, DMT consistently propels people into a hyperreal dimension filled with autonomous entities. Dr. Rick Strassman, who conducted the first U.S. government-approved psychedelic research in decades, called this the single strangest fact in his studies. Ordinary people with no prior knowledge of DMT lore independently describe nearly identical beings and environments. This consistency suggests something profound about the nature of consciousness and reality. In this video, we'll dive deep into the phenomenology of the DMT realm, explore its inhabitants, and discuss its startling implications for our understanding of the universe. The DMT journey begins within seconds of inhalation or injection. Users describe being violently, yet not unkindly, propelled through a geometric tunnel or vortex at impossible speeds, accompanied by a high-pitched vibratory hum often called a carrier wave. This tunnel resolves into what many call the chrysanthemum or the dome, an infinite, tessellated, self-replicating fractal architecture made of living, intelligent geometry. This environment is not seen as a hallucination, but as a real place with its own physics, ecology, and inhabitants. The overwhelming consensus is that this dimension feels more substantial, more detailed, and more authentic than baseline reality. Neuroscientist Andrew Gallimore describes this as ontologically startling. It challenges the very nature of what is real. Users often return feeling that ordinary life is a distant dream compared to this hyperreal realm. The most famous DMT entities are the Clockwork Elves, or self-transforming machine elves, a term coined by ethnobotanist Terence McKenna. These beings are described as small, playful, and constantly morphing between mechanical and organic forms. They often communicate through telepathy, showing the user how reality is constructed from living geometry. Other common entities include jester-like beings that are tricksters, tall insectoid mantis beings that seem clinical and authoritative, and serpentine Ouroboros figures representing cycles. At the highest doses, some users encounter an ineffable source or cosmic mind that feels like the architect of the entire dimension. Despite their bizarre appearances, these entities are almost uniformly portrayed as didactic. They are there to teach, show, and reveal. Their consistency across cultures and backgrounds is one of the strongest arguments for the reality of the DMT realm. Users report receiving remarkably coherent messages from DMT entities. A common initial message is, "We are always here. You just don't normally perceive us." This suggests that the DMT realm interpenetrates ordinary reality, but is filtered out by our normal consciousness. Another key teaching is that reality is constructed. The fractals and geometry are the source code of the universe. Perhaps the most profound message is that love is not just an emotion, but a fundamental substance, the actual fabric from which reality is woven. Users return insisting that love is real in a literal, physical sense. Entities also convey that we are infinitely more than our ego, that human consciousness is a fragment of a vast eternal awareness. Finally, they emphasize our purpose: to create and appreciate novelty. Our struggles, art, and evolution contribute to a larger cosmic process. The elves' joy is often interpreted as delight in our conscious experience of their creations. How do we make sense of these experiences? The scientific materialist view argues that DMT simply disinhibits the visual cortex and other brain regions, causing a chaotic dreamlike state that the pattern-seeking brain interprets as entities. The consistency of reports is attributed to shared brain architecture and Jungian archetypes. However, an alternative hypothesis, argued by researchers like Graham Hancock and Rick Strassman, proposes that DMT doesn't create hallucinations, but allows the brain to perceive dimensions of reality that are ordinarily inaccessible, like a radio tuner picking up a new frequency. The consistency of reports in this view suggests objective perception. DMT is endogenous, produced naturally in the human brain, primarily in the pineal gland. It acts on the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor, but its effects are distinct from other psychedelics. This debate touches on the very nature of consciousness, and whether it is merely a product of the brain or a receiver of a broader reality. The DMT realm may be understood as a borderland or interface zone, a waiting room between dimensions. In metaphysical systems, The machine elves and mantis beings resemble devas or nature spirits, responsible for maintaining the laws of a vibrational plane. The tunnel experience mirrors near-death experiences and shamanic journeying, possibly representing the transition between realities. The DMT experience is profoundly Gnostic. It reveals that the everyday world is a constructed illusion maintained by archonic forces, and true liberation comes from direct knowledge of the divine source. The entity's emphasis on love as the fundamental substance echoes the Gnostic concept of agape. For humanity, this suggests we may be a cosmic sense organ, experiencing time and emotion for a broader consciousness. Our art, love, and laughter may be forms of high-energy work that enrich the cosmos. The ultimate message is simple: don't get fixated on the realm itself, bring the wisdom back to transform ordinary life. As many report, you are home already. Now act like it.